Órale, Cholo Trucker Más movies and shows, and this is it. This was it, the finale. It's all over now. This episode, episode four, was a little longer, man. It was probably about an hour and a half, where most episodes were somewhere around an hour. Um, okay. Gosh, man, lot to go in through this one, but I probably won't get to it all. I'll just basically just say this when it comes to it. Okay. Um, it was very, very interesting. Um, Ron Goldman's sister, she's on this documentary, telling her side of the story. You have a juror, from the jury. Um, I tell you, man, it was touching. It was, man. It was really, hitting you in the emotional area. Um, it was good. I was starting to think because for episode three, I was like, man, they're probably gonna mess up, the landing here on the way they're gonna close this out. No, actually, on the contrary, man, they ended it pretty damn good. I liked it. I did. Um, Everybody that was involved pretty much gave like their final thoughts on it. The verdict, obviously they showed the verdict when it came down. And I'll tell you, it's showing across the country of people that were, ready to listen, whether he's guilty or not guilty, right? I'll tell you, I remember exactly where I was at. Like I said, I was a teenager and I was in detention, not after school, but during school. Uh, I wasn't that good of a student. Um, and they turned it on, and it's like, all right, let's see, guilty or not guilty. And I remember exactly where I was at. I was in school. I was in detention during school, not after school. Um, Man, it brings you back, and it's like, oh yeah, man. Like I said, it emotionally takes you on the ride. I've said this before. The attention to detail that this sucker goes through, it just makes it different, in my opinion. Okay, in my opinion, this is probably the best documentary I have ever seen when it comes to the O.J. Simpson case. In all honesty, I don't know how many are out there. I don't know if I've seen them all. I've seen quite a few, but this is probably the best one. I man, I'm glad I watched it. For someone who was like, man, I don't want to see this. Like, how much more do you really want to see? How much more information can you really take in? How much more? I was like, I really didn't want to see it. I actually, but I'm glad I did. And you know, obviously, he was found not guilty, and how it shows people celebrating, which I've seen that before. I've seen that before. But it takes you to afterwards, the party that he threw right afterwards. He goes home, he throws a party, the helicopter's flying around, he's seeing everybody party there. It takes him to the civil case, right? Which that for that never really gets mentioned. Yes, you've heard of it, but they get into a little bit detail. There's not really much to see because they didn't allow any cameras. So they comb over it, but they do get into some details in it. Um, he had to pay $33.5 million. But one thing that I personally didn't know is that, you know, it was up to the Brown family and the Goldman family to retrieve that money from OJ. It's not like the system really helps you get that money from OJ. No, it's up to you to go get that money. And they never did. They were never able to get the money. It shows why OJ moved to Florida and, he started living the party life. And, I remember him being in that freaking music video or something like that. And, Then it takes him to when he got busted in Vegas, did 9 years, gets out, all the way to his death. It was, look, man, it was interesting. Again, did I learn anything new watching this whole series? Yes, yes. There was some key moments. There were, like the dog and some of the witnesses, some of the evidence that was not presented in court. There was some new things that I didn't know. All that being said, I mean, it's another, O.J. Simpson documentary of the case, but the way this one is done, the way this one presents everything is just on another level. This was my favorite. This when it comes to this case, when it comes to O.J. Simpson, when it comes to documentaries about this one was, I think, the best one. This was my favorite. Um, with everybody that they had, from the lawyers, from the detectives, from the family, from everybody that they had on this that was involved one way or another. I thought it was really good, man. All that being said, all that being said, it's over, right? I mean, what else can you do? Is there going to be some other documentary about this? Even though that's the way I felt going into this one, but now I'm like, okay, what else can you do? It showed what a lot of the people that were involved in that case. It showed, what they're doing now, right? Like that's it. It's just time for this to just that. I mean, I don't know what else you can do. I think the probably the only thing, if you're gonna do anything, right, is probably, I don't know, maybe something about the kids, I guess. I don't really keep up with it too well, but I don't know if they've talked in public about this case, O.J. Simpson's kids. Um, but outside of that, I'm not really sure what else you can do. Is it worth watching? Look, I'll say it again. All right. Going into it, I was like slapping my forehead, like, good gosh, how much more of this can you do? After it, I'm glad I watched it. I am. I'm glad I watched it. And that's basically where I'm going to leave it. Because the way that it presented everything, the attention to detail, all that it was done great. It was done great. And maybe a lot of the stuff is the same, but just from a different angle. And it was good. I really, really enjoyed it. I really did, man. So I'm not gonna recommend it, and I'm not gonna recommend it. I'm just simply gonna say I wasn't gonna watch it. I didn't want to watch it. I thought it was kind of foolish that you would go and do something else again with O.J. Simpson. And now that I watched it, I'm glad I did. And that's where I'll leave it. That is American Manhunt, O.J. Simpson. Cholo Trucker Moss Moves and Shows. Catch you guys on next one.